Hello and welcome to Super Boothers. My name is Ryan.
And I'm Ismail.
Have you ever double booked an event
Now, when you say
when you didn't have the inventory?
so booking an event that I couldn't fulfill,
Yes.
absolutely.
Have you? Okay, You can tell your story. I would like to hear this story.
Now I know people probably don't suggest that for various reasons, but I you probably don't like it either. I think you and I have argued about this in the past, but I
Uh,
actually
Honey
good.
bun, I have built a business on it. I have built a
Oh, really?
business on double booking.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so we're in agreement here. I think I hear a lot of people advising you not to do that, um, but I find it to be helpful for a lot of different reasons. First of all, I can validate whether I need to buy more equipment, right? So if I don't actually book more events than I can handle, I don't know when the right time is to buy more booths, right? So to me, it's one way of validating the need for more booths. I also don't think there's anything wrong with subbing work out to people. I think it's been helpful to me to form relationships with people in my area and pass work on to each other that we can't fulfill, and then they pass it to me when they can't. So for those two reasons, I've been very open to double booking. But if I see that there's more of a need than what I can fulfill, I expand my fleet.
So
You know what I'm
what's
saying?
that?
So I don't
What's
double
that?
book too much.
What's that percentage, or what's the like quantifiable number to justify getting more equipment?
Well, I don't know if I have a formula, but I just have it's basically a feel where if once in a blue moon, I have someone asking for a booth and I'm already fully booked, then I'll just sub it out to somebody else. But if it starts happening, let's say once a month or, once every 6 weeks, then I start considering purchasing another one and expanding my fleet. Otherwise, it's not worth it. So I'd rather maintain those relationships. And I think the people that I work with in my area think the same way. So they kind of do the same thing where they are constantly balancing their fleet against the market need. And they probably do the same kind of math where if it only happens periodically, they pass the work on to me. If it happens more often, they purchase another booth. And then I notice a little less referrals from them because they just expanded their fleet and they have to wait for their business to continue growing to past a certain point before they sub out work back to me. Does that make sense?
Totally. I think that whenever I get an event from a client that I've had well, first of all, I rarely ever say no. I think that in the physical world that we occupy, it would physically have to be impossible for me to say no about an event. It doesn't matter what city it's in, doesn't matter anything. Um, that's how I think I've really grown the business, is just really not saying no. And that's probably not the smartest thing. I'm pretty sure that was a dumb move. Well, I know it was a dumb move. And actually, we talked about that in Josh Pather's episode where I like quadruple book stuff. I have booked plenty of business, future business, without having the equipment to back it up whenever I book the business. I think I just find it better as far as like, for me, as far as motivating to make those purchases. And that's the thing. Someone's like, well, Brian, like, what if you like don't buy the equipment in time and la 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 la? Well, then you just hire someone else to do it. Like I'm like, if I sell a graffiti booth, like let's say I sell it like 2 months out, like there are people that have had entire businesses dedicated to graffiti booths. I'm not sure if that's a thing for me. So, if I like start pushing graffiti booths and I don't sell any and I only sell the one, well, then I'm not going to buy the equipment. I'm just going to sub it out by the time the event comes.
I mean, there's a famous saying from Mark Cuban where he says sales cures all. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of agreeing with what you just said. Just book it, and let future Ryan worry about it. And
Yeah.
usually, you find a way to take care of it, right? You're not gonna just leave people hanging. You're gonna find a way to take care of it.
So
But I think,
in the
but
previous episode, we talked about the travel. That's where this becomes a problem. Is future Ryan is now Ryan, and Ryan's tired.
yeah, eventually, future Ryan becomes now Ryan.
No,
But
it catches up with you. Don't get me wrong.
I also think though that the purpose of the business is to grow, right? And if you're turning away business, it doesn't compute with me. Like, how can I grow? And I don't also believe in buying equipment before there's a justified need for it, right? So if you combine those philosophies, you have to double book. You
For
have to
sure.
book more than you can handle in the pursuit of growth. So I'm not going to buy booths without really knowing if I need it or not. I'm not going to purchase extra booths in the hopes that, hey, I'll book some events and it'll pay for it. No, That's you're getting yourself into debt, and it's not a smart move.
One of the friend that shared with me our costing sheet. She paid someone, a couple $100,000 to not only for the costing sheet, but for other parts of the business. But, whenever I was telling her, I was like, hey, like this was back in 2006 ish. Whenever we started buying photo booths, and she goes, you have to sell these photo booths before I let you buy one. She was kind of like my mother in that aspect. She was like, you're not allowed to buy this unless you sell X amount of dollars. And
It's
then you
good.
can,
It's
and
good
no, she's like,
advice.
and then you can buy it. And that's the thing is, again, at the very basis of, if you were to boil down what we do, we are a rental. We make money when the thing is rented. We don't make money when it sits in storage and collects dust. So that was a very large lesson for me to learn. And that's another thing that I learned is from another decor person. Whenever, you're buying a lot of decor, you don't buy something that you wouldn't put it in your own home. Like this is an extension of you, and you really have to love it. That's the thing is, I don't think I would be like, I have to love like my branding. I have to love, like, that's the thing, like with Super Boothers, I love our branding. I love whenever we come out with something new. I love creating new content. If I didn't absolutely love that, I mean, you just can't be doing it.
Well, I guess I'll ask this question: if you don't double book, when do you know when to buy more booths?
You don't. You just
Exactly.
stay poor. I haven't said that in a long time.
It's been like 10 episodes. Come on, man.
Stay poor shirts are available at rhineslings.com/shop.
But yeah, otherwise, when do you know when it's time to buy another booth? Like people always ask, "Hey, when do I expand my fleet?" When you've double booked enough times, basically, right?
But there
If
are some people
if you're
that
not
won't
doing
allow themselves to double book.
exactly, so if you're not doing that, I think you're making a mistake and you're going about it the wrong way.
Well, hold on, girl. So don't get excited. So this is the problem. So before you double book, because I have gotten into this little mistake, and it's been a problem. I will actually tell a story. We have story time.
Any
Story time music.
story time music? Go ahead.
Story time music, please. So this was back before I had a CRM. So first of all, if you don't have a CRM, we have a problem. Luckily, we have a co-host that has a CRM. Um, shameless plug, number 2. So this is what happened. I was using a company called FreshBooks for my invoicing, and this was before I had found anything really date based. I would not have this problem now. However, I did back then, where you would put in, for an example, whenever I would send a proposal, I would literally send it as an estimate, and it's just a one-off, like a little one pager. And the client would book, they'd pay their deposit, I would print out the sheet, and I would put it in the Bible. For those that don't know, in catering, you have a BEO Bible where every event gets put into a binder based off a date. So it's the physical copy of the most current order is in the Bible, and it's something that everyone has access to. So I do not have a Bible anymore. I used to have a Bible, but there's no need for it just because everything is just in the cloud where it lives now. So this was back before then. So it was my first Saturday off in a very long time. I had just gone through a split with my business partner, and it was nasty a little bit, I think.
Just a bit.
just to tell. I mean, it wasn't nasty. It was just we couldn't talk to each other without an attorney in the room. Like, it was just a little friendly. So part of that was I was no longer doing photo booths. Well, I had booked a piece of business after the split with the intention that I was going to buy another photo booth, and I completely forgot about it. Row. So I had this event on a Saturday, and I thought I had the Saturday off because there was nothing in the Bible. And it was this tiny event. I mean, I charged next to nothing for this. So that's why I completely forgot about it. Well, I called one of my friends, Laura. I will never forget this. And she and I were going to go have brunch. We were going to go have mimosas. We were going to go shopping. We were going to go. This is in Houston. If you have ever been to High Fashion Home, you need to go. It's off of like Westheimer in Louisiana ish. But anyways, so we have this lovely day planned. I get a phone call at 11 a.m. and the event planner calls and she goes, "Hi, what time are you going to be here today?" I said, "For what?" And she goes, "Oh, the blah, 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 blah wedding." I said, "Please hold. What's the last name? What's the date?" I'm doing searches frantically left and right and thinking to myself, why can't I find this? Sure enough, I said, I asked her, like, when did they come in or whatever. Or I said, no, send me, if she had like an invoice number or whatever. So I looked it up like that. Sure enough, it was on some like random complicated last name that just did not register at all. It looked, and the revenue on it was like next to nothing. She said, so the event was like supposed to start at like 7, and it was like out in like the middle of nowhere. So it was like, I believe like south of Stafford, which is pretty far in Houston. Sure enough, I called, and luckily, first of all, I'm so glad she called because I wouldn't have known about this. Second,
I was just going to say,
I called
kudos to that event planner for calling you so early. That saved you, really.
well, for sure. But this is another thing is I noticed that real event planners will call you a couple days before. Like, so this was, and this really wasn't an event planner. It was so much like, well, first of all, it was at a barbecue place in the middle of nowhere. So it was really like her just kind of checking up on her own end. I really think it was like a banquet manager, if I really am thinking about it correctly. So I had just, part of my business partner's buyout was photo booths. Like, he was going to take that part of the business. And again, I had booked this like separately. Sure enough, I called my friend, panicking. I mean, and this was pre-Xanax Ryan. So, I mean, this was just like Dr. Pepper Ryan. So it was just,
Oh my God.
yeah.
I can picture the memes.
Oh, oh my God, for sure. Please, first of all, this is a little tangent. We have been getting like a little bit of, I'm not going to call it fan artwork. Maybe it is hysterical and I love it. So please keep it coming.
Oh man, we get some great stuff on our email.
Someone like whenever, so I've been doing Lyra Hoop every now and then, and someone pasted me in like the Super Bowl commercial where what's his face lifts. It was just, it's
Odell Beckham Jr. and Eli Manning. Yep.
It's so funny. So please keep on doing it. I really enjoy it. It's hysterical at the very least.
And stop making me the girl in future memes, please. I don't approve of that.
So I call my friend in like panic diarrhea mode. Like, that's just where we are. And she was like, "We're going to handle this." We went, and I literally, because I had no equipment, we got on my laptop. We bought photo booth software. I went, and luckily I was able to fashion a backdrop because we had pipe and drape and fabric. And we went and we had a little selfie printer at Best Buy. We went out. I took photos. First of all, the client didn't know the difference because of just like the attitude of, "Oh, I got this under control. I went and I upgraded you to this fabulous background, blah, blah, blah." They were so happy. Book something else like, later on that year for like the sister's wedding or something like that. I mean, that is just letting you controlling the problem at that point. And just me being able to sell without getting into that big of a trouble.
Well, just to clarify, you didn't even have a booth. You didn't have anything.
Nope.
When this lady called you that day.
Nope. Nothing.
Wow.
And this was before you could really like do stuff from your phone. So there was none of that happening. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't have a unit. I just have the ability to purchase like the brains of what a photo booth is. So
what's the point of the story though? Because it seems like it worked out for you. Are you saying that sometimes you shouldn't be double booking?
Well, no. I don't know what the damn point of this story is. However,
oh God.
The lesson learned is only really double book if you have like the capability of double booking. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. So if you know that, I would set a date. And this is what I normally do whenever I purchase anything new. I will do it to this day. Let's say this, by the end of the summer, I will have XYZ purchased. And this really comes out to actually, there's an app that I talked about. It's called Simple Banking, where you can like set aside money and do different like goal oriented like savings accounts. It's the most genius thing. It's so easy to operate on your phone. It's available in the show notes. It's like the coolest thing ever. So, anyways, so what you can do is you can say like, I'm going to purchase, a graffiti booth by the end of the summer, and you will just sell graffiti booths like nobody's business. Anytime you get a graffiti booth booking, you put a certain amount of money into that particular account, or just set aside some of that money for that specific purpose. And once you hit that threshold, then you can purchase it. But sell it far enough to where you have the ability to generate the business for it. That's whenever you go to your, venue people and you say, hey, listen, I got this great new thing.
So how do you decide, like, do you ever purchase equipment before people have booked it? Or like, how do you gauge if there's enough interest to buy something? Or do you just buy things that are cool and then sell it?
If I can pay for it in full in the first rental. So for example, whenever I did Super Bowl, I did my first bullet time array booth. The only way I would have done that is if it was paid for in full whenever I purchased it. That is how I gauge it, because it's already paid for. I've already made my money on it, and now it's mine to keep. That's how I gauge it.
Interesting.
The same thing.
There's a lot of cool tactics. Yeah.
The same thing would go for furniture. Like if a client wanted this brand new specific piece of furniture, the only way I would purchase it is if 90% of it was paid for in the first rental.
How does that work? Because a lot of the photo booths out there are very expensive. There's no way you can get that in one rental, right? So
watch me.
What do you say about? No, well, you know what I mean, right? There's some booths that are
like what?
Several $1,000s. There's several $1,000 booths out there.
Okay. Well, so this is the thing is, first of all, if you can't make your money back in 3 rentals, you don't need to be buying it. I mean, that's Susie Orman Ryan coming out here. I mean, I'm not even, this is just actual fact. It's kind of like if you cannot pay for a car in 3 years, you cannot afford that car. I mean, there are people that I'm sure there are people listening that have 5 and 7 year car notes. You're wasting money. That's where you put down pen to paper on a spreadsheet, show how much money you're paying on a 3-year note versus a 7-year note. You're paying almost $20,000 more for the same thing.
All right, so let me rephrase this question, because I get what you're saying. Buy it when you can afford to pay it in 1 rental or 3 rentals, right? But how do you even know what to sell? Like, you're selling something before you have it, right? So out of all the things out there that you don't have, how do you know which things to sell to your clients before you have them? Does that make sense?
I mean, I would, first of all, if the client comes to you with the idea, I mean, you kind of have something there. I mean, and if you have like multiple clients saying, hey, do you have this? Hey, do you have this? Hey, do you have this? Like, that's the thing is I have more clients now asking me for digital props. Like, it's almost old fashioned for me to show up with regular props. Sorry, prop people.
You know what's interesting? And we didn't plan to get into this in this episode, but one thing that I do, and I don't know if this is going to be stupid or unpopular, but I actually, if there's things that I see out there that I am interested in, I test selling it. So what that means is I put it on my website. I have promotional material about it. I have whatever videos, pictures, whatnot, and I try to sell it, or I see if anyone asks for it. And I actually try to sell that product to people before I have it. And not only does that validate me purchasing stuff, it also talked me out of buying some things that I found out there wasn't really a demand for. It would have been a waste of money. So it saved me pain. But also, if there's events that are farther out in the future, I can actually book them, and those bookings pay for the purchase. For
sure. I mean, I don't think that. How is that stupid? I'm trying to figure out how that could ever be.
Well, because there's a lot of people out there that say you shouldn't be selling things you don't have. blah blah blah. It's unethical. You don't even know how to work
No,
the thing. Yada yada yada.
no, I'm sorry. Granted, if you're a manufacturer, I don't think that you should like. I mean, I understand pre-selling. I'm not sure. I don't know. There's just a lot of stuff that can go wrong. I don't know. I'd have to.
Yeah, I mean
I'd have to think about that one.
that's exactly what I do. Is I talk to the people in my area that have something that I don't have, and I say, can I have some pictures and videos so I can sell it for you? And if I sell it, I give them the
That's
work.
different because you have access to it. If you don't have access to it, that's a different story.
Right. But still, if it's so far out in the future, you can get access to it, you can learn it, and you can sell it without a problem. But don't forget the second part, that it's actually talked me out of buying some things that I would have bought and would have been a total waste of
Like
money.
what?
I don't want to name names, but there are some things that are very expensive that I thought about purchasing, and I actually tried to sell it before I had them, and no one wanted it.
You know,
So,
I don't know where this comes from. I don't know what there are some things that are just exorbitantly expensive. There is no way that I would ever consider selling it or even purchasing it, even if it was paid for in full. There's just some things that I'm not sure. I think they can come across as just like fads. And there's a lot of like fads in photo booth industry. Um, you know,
well, what was interesting at PBX is that there was a few things that were ridiculously expensive. Like, it's not economical. It's not really a feasible
oh, and I'm
like rental
sure
business
people still
option.
sold them.
But so I agree with you, right? On the other hand, though, you do need those people out there forging ahead and trying to innovate, right? Because if something is, appealing enough, eventually the market will adapt. Everyone will want it. The prices will go down. So you need people at the forefront
Sure.
trying to push these things. But that doesn't mean I have to spend tens of thousands of dollars on something that hasn't been proven yet.
Sure. My thing is that I think that it needs to benefit the client somehow. So if something provides something new, I think I'm more inclined to purchase it. And I think it's easier to justify that purchase once I've already sold it ahead of time.
So I guess what we're saying is double book things, sell things you don't have. This is going to get us into some trouble, I think, this episode.
I don't care. I don't give a crap. Do you know who I think I am? No, I mean, I have built a business on, I really have built a business on double booking. I even said it in the episode with Josh. I mean, I went to Josh and I bought 2 photo booths and he's like, who are you? Like, why are you doing this? Like, nobody does this. And it's just, that's just how I've always done it. I think I am suggesting that you do the same only and if only you have access to the equipment if for some reason you cannot purchase it. Like, always have a backup. Like, I've never just done this like nilly-willy and not had like a plan B.
Did you just say nilly willy?
I did.
First of all, and I think the audience will back me up on this, it's willy nilly, okay? If you're going to do something like that, you got to say it right.
Thanks for listening, guys. Thank you so much for listening. If you're going to be in New Orleans on May 10th, please come see me. I'll be speaking at the ILEA New Orleans chapter meeting at the B Hotel on Canal Street. Please visit ILEANewOrleans.com. That's ILEA Neworleans.com for more info. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week.